I am not coming back.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Winter King Season 1 Episode 2 recap and 7 biggest story reveals. Warning, spoilers ahead, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. The second episode of The Winter King introduces some unexpected twists and sets the season's stage. The first episode of The Winter King had the challenging job of setting up the universe and all of the important characters, with that episode alone spanning an 8-year period. In it, Arthur was exiled from Britain by his father, King Uther, Mordred was born, and the Saxon threat grew. In the first episode, there was a lot of tangent making, but the second episode of Winter King emphasizes how serious the threat to the nation actually is. Arthur refuses Merlin's request to return to Britain. The arrival of a new heir ought to be a happy occasion, but according to Merlin's Death of Britain vision, this won't be the case. In the first episode of The Winter King, after Mordred is born, Merlin sees the future king dressing in a gold mask and beheading people. The magician then forewarns Uther that his son will develop into a monster. When Uther declines to look for Arthur and bring him home, Merlin undertakes this mission on his own because he believes that he would be a dictator whose actions would result in the death of the nation. The second episode of The Winter King begins with Merlin and Arthur reunited in Gaul, or France. Although Arthur is happy to see his old buddy, he declines to go back. He claims that being exiled freed him from his ties to Britain and that he has no desire to go back. This news is obviously not what Merlin wants to hear, and it starts the show off on a dark note. King Uther names Prince Mordred's 3 protectors. In Episode 2, King Uther of Dumnonia can be shown to be losing strength, yet he still manages to lay forth his plans for Mordred's future. Uther appoints 3 guardians to watch over Mordred until he is prepared to assume the throne, and the kid is to be raised in the sanctuary city of Avalon. Bishop Bedwin, Uther's advocate and Arthur's closest friend, Owain, and Gunglius, the ruler of the enemy country Siluria, are the first, second, and third, respectively. The latter option is particularly contentious for a number of reasons. King Uther's death and what it means for Dumnonia. After announcing Mordred's guardians, Uther enters his rooms briefly. His daughter Morgan consoles him as he slips away, as it quickly becomes apparent that he is not long for this world. Uther's passing so early on in the Winter King's run is a true surprise, especially given that Marson is one of the greatest stars in the cast. Even though it's an emotional scene, it also foreshadows future problems. With his successor still a baby, the death of the High King of all Dumnonia leaves a power vacuum that will only make the already chaotic and bloody political situation in Britain worse. Gunglius leads a massacre on Avalon. After Episode 2 airs, the Avalon attack will be the scene that everyone will be talking about. Gunglius purportedly kills his uncle and then returns to Avalon a few weeks after Uther's death. He is welcomed by Morgan and Queen Nerwina, and he requests to hold young Mordred. Gunglius cradles the infant and declares that a kid cannot rule a nation before taking a digger and killing Mordred. After Gunglius leaves the burning temple, Durfle and Nimu are able to sneak out of Avalon with some other survivors. Nimu may have lost her powers. The opening episode of Winter King establishes that despite Nimu and Durfle's love for one another, they cannot be together. Nimu's link to the gods will one day make her a potent priestess, but she must live a solitary, celibate life, according to Merlin. If not, her connection will be broken, and she won't ever hear from the gods again. When he launched his attack, Gunglius was obviously aware of this, and afterward, Nimu attempted suicide. Why Morgan switches babies. The baby stabbing is the most upsetting of all the horrifying pictures from the Avalon atrocity. The episode later reveals that Morgan had switched Mordred with another child when Gunglius arrived. Morgan had been instructed by her father to give her life if necessary to save the baby. Morgan made it apparent that she didn't like the king of Siluria and didn't trust him with her brother. Unfortunately, her suspicions were confirmed when Gunglius discovered that the babies were exchanged after looking at the body of the child he killed. He gathers his troops and sends them to hunt down and murder any survivors in the woodlands surrounding Avalon. While Durfle manages to defeat a few of Gunglius's soldiers and scores his first victory, Arthur finally returns from exile. The gang is about to surrender when spears are hurled at Gunglius soldiers from a nearby cliff, saving them from certain death. When Durfle turns at this point, he sees that Arthur and his troops have at last come, and the narrative concludes somewhat happily. Thank you for watching.